Commander Zixthara's three eyes stared at the sensor display in disbelief. Her blue skin turned pale as the readings flickered across the screen. Something was coming from the direction of Sul, the small yellow star that housed the primitive planet called Earth. The monitoring station orbited Kepler 442b, far on the outer edge of Galactic Confederation space. Zixthara had been stationed here for 12 cycles, watching for pirates and smugglers. Nothing exciting ever happened. The most dangerous thing she usually saw was a broken cargo hauler drifting too close to the planet's gravity well. But this was different. Very different. "Sensor Technician Krill, run the scan again," she ordered, her voice tight with concern. The young hegemony officer, his gray scales shimmering under the station's lights, worked quickly at his console. His arms moved across the controls with practiced ease. After a few moments, he looked up with confusion written across his reptilian features. "Commander, the readings are the same. Mass equivalent to a small moon, but moving at 0.97 light speed. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases." Zixthara's tail twitched nervously. In her 40 years of service, she had never seen anything like this. The object was too big to move that fast. It defied every law of physics she knew. "What about propulsion?" she asked. "That's the strange part, Commander. We detect no ion trails, no fusion exhaust, no hyperspace distortion. It appears to be generating its own gravitational field somehow." The commander moved closer to the display. The object was still 3 hours away at its current speed, but already their sensors were picking up impossible details. The thing wasn't just big, it was massive beyond reason. Yet it moved with the grace of a small fighter craft. "Communication Officer Vestar, any signals from the object?" The insectoid officer's compound eyes reflected the station's lights. As she checked her equipment, her 6 limbs worked at different control panels simultaneously. "Nothing yet, Commander, but I'm detecting some kind of scanning beam. Very sophisticated. It's learning about our station faster than our computers can process the data." A chill ran down Zixthara's spine. Whatever was approaching them had technology far beyond anything the Confederation possessed. She had read the reports about Earth. The humans there had barely achieved basic spaceflight. They couldn't even leave their own solar system properly. Their most advanced ships were primitive chemical rockets that took months to reach their outer planets. This couldn't be coming from Earth. But the trajectory was clear. "Pull up the Earth files," she commanded. The main screen filled with data about the third planet of the Sol system. Primitive civilization, barely past nuclear technology, no faster than light travel, no advanced materials science. The humans were at least 1,000 years away from interstellar capability, according to Confederation scientists. "Commander," Krill's voice was strained, "the object just changed course. It's heading directly for us now." "Impossible. How could it detect us at this distance?" "I don't know, but it's slowing down. Current speed is 0.5 light speed and decreasing." Zixthara's mind raced. If this was some kind of weapon, her small monitoring station wouldn't last 5 seconds against something that massive. She had only 30 crew members and basic defensive systems designed to handle pirates, not whatever this thing was. Red alert. All stations prepare for possible combat. Send an emergency signal to Confederation Fleet Command. Alarm lights bathed the bridge in red light. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, though Zixthara could see the fear in their movements. They were facing something unknown, something that shouldn't exist. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," Vestar announced, her voice filled with shock. "Put it through." The speakers crackled with static, then cleared to reveal a voice speaking perfect galactic standard. The accent was strange, but the words were precise and formal. "Kepler Monitoring Station, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Indomitable. We request permission to dock for diplomatic purposes. We come in peace and wish to establish formal contact with the Galactic Confederation." Silence filled the bridge. Every crew member stared at the speakers in amazement. The voice was clearly human. They had studied enough intercepted Earth communications to recognize the species' vocal patterns, but humans weren't supposed to. No galactic standard. They weren't supposed to know about the Confederation at all. How do they know our language? Whispered Krill. Zixthara found her voice. Unknown vessel, please identify yourself and explain how you obtained Confederation communication protocols. The response came immediately. Commander Zixthara, we have been monitoring Confederation communications for approximately 137 Earth years. We apologize for not making contact sooner, but we felt it was important to understand your civilization before introducing ourselves. The commander's 3 hearts seemed to stop beating at once. The humans had been watching them for over a century? That was impossible. Earth's technology was primitive. They had confirmed this through careful observation. Captain Chen, she said slowly, our records indicate that Earth has not achieved faster-than-light travel capabilities. A sound came through the speakers that might have been laughter. Commander, with respect, your records are incomplete. We have been traveling between stars for 93 years. The Indomitable is actually one of our older vessels. Older vessels? Zixthara felt dizzy. If this massive ship was old by human standards, what did their new ships look like? We are transmitting our diplomatic credentials now, the human voice continued. We understand this must be surprising, but we assure you that we mean no harm. We simply feel it is time to properly introduce ourselves to the galactic community. Data began flowing across the communication systems. Vestar's eyes widened as she processed the information. Commander, these credentials are encoded with mathematical proofs that would take our best computers weeks to solve, but the solutions are included and they're all correct. This isn't just advanced, it's showing off. On the main screen, the approaching vessel finally became visible to their optical sensors. Zixthara heard several crew members gasp in shock. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its hull seemed to shift and change as they watched, as if it were alive. Parts of it appeared to be made from materials that bent light around them, creating an almost hypnotic effect. The design was unlike anything in Confederation databases. Sassy organic curves mixed with geometric precision, creating something that looked grown rather than built. Captain Chen, Zixthara said, her voice barely steady, you are cleared to dock at Port 7. We welcome you to Confederation space. Thank you, Commander. We appreciate your hospitality. We'll be docking in approximately 47 minutes. Fair warning, our ship is somewhat larger than your standard docking facilities. We'll adjust our approach accordingly. As the transmission ended, Zixthara slumped in her command chair. In less than an hour, everything the Galactic Confederation thought they knew about humanity was about to change. She looked at her crew's shocked faces and realized that this was just the beginning. Whatever the humans had become during their century of secret development, it was about to shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The primitive species from the edge of nowhere had built something that defied everything they thought they understood about technology and physics, and they were about to dock at her station. The docking bay shook as the human vessel approached. Commander Zixthara watched through the reinforced viewing ports as the ship called Indomitable slowly maneuvered into position. The vessel was so large that it couldn't actually fit inside the docking bay. Instead, it extended what looked like a smaller ship from its main hull to connect with the station. Even this smaller section was 3 times the size of the station's largest docking port. Atmospheric seal confirmed, reported Chief Engineer Brocht, his rocky granite skin showing stress fractures. But, Commander, their ship is doing something to our docking clamps. They're improving them somehow. Zixthara frowned. Improving them how? The metal is becoming stronger, more flexible. Our clamps were rated for vessels up to 10,000 tons. Now they're registering as capable of holding 100,000 tons, and the numbers keep climbing. Through the viewing port, Zixthara could see strange lights playing across the hull of the human vessel where it touched their station. The metal of their docking bay was changing color, becoming smoother and somehow more alive-looking. "Sir," called Vestar from her communication station, "they're requesting permission to board with a diplomatic party of 5 individuals." "Granted. Have Security Chief Morak meet them at the airlock with a full honor guard." Zix Thara made her way to the main docking level, her mind racing with questions. Every few minutes, she received new reports that made less sense than the last. The human ship was generating its own gravity field. It was somehow cleaning their station's air recycling systems just by being connected. Most disturbing of all, it seemed to be gently probing their computer networks, but instead of stealing information, it was fixing software problems and optimizing data flow. The airlock cycled with a soft hiss. Zix Thara straightened her uniform and tried to look calm as the inner door opened. The first human through was clearly the captain. She was shorter than Zix Thara had expected, with dark skin and short black hair. Her uniform was simple and practical, but Zix Thara's trained eye could see that every piece of equipment the human wore was incredibly advanced. The woman's breathing apparatus wasn't bulky like Confederation environmental suits. Instead, it seemed to be built into her clothing, adjusting automatically to the station's atmosphere. Her boots left no marks on the deck, suggesting some kind of gravitational control system. "Commander Zix Thara," the human said with a slight bow. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable. Thank you for allowing us to dock." "Captain Chen," Zix Thara replied, returning the bow. "Welcome to Kepler Station. This is quite unexpected." Captain Chen smiled. "I imagine it is. We probably should have announced ourselves sooner, but we wanted to be sure we were ready for this conversation." The other humans with her were equally impressive. One wore what looked like a simple jacket, but Zix Thara could see energy patterns flowing through the fabric that suggested personal shielding systems more advanced than military battle armor. Another carried what appeared to be a small tablet, but it was projecting holographic displays that showed real-time analysis of the station's systems. "Captain," Zix Thara said carefully, "I must ask, how long has Earth possessed faster-than-light travel?" "About 93 years, as I mentioned. Though we took a different approach than most species, we don't actually travel faster than light in the traditional sense." "I don't understand." Captain Chen gestured to one of her companions, a tall man with strange markings along his arms that seemed to shift and move. "This is Dr. Marcus Webb, our chief of physics. He can explain it better than I can." Dr. Webb stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice had an odd, harmonic quality, as if multiple people were speaking at once. "Commander, most species achieve faster-than-light travel by entering what you call hyperspace, a dimension where the laws of physics work differently. We found that approach limiting. Instead, we learned to convince reality that we were already where we wanted to be." Zix Thara blinked her 3 eyes in confusion. "Convince reality?" "Space and time aren't as fixed as most species believe. With the right approach, you can negotiate with the fundamental forces of the universe. Our ships don't travel through space. They convince space to rearrange itself so that our destination becomes our current location." The words made no sense. Zix Thara had studied physics for decades, and what the human was describing sounded like fantasy. "That's impossible," she said. Dr. Webb smiled, and for a moment his face seemed to flicker, showing something that looked more like a constellation of stars than flesh. "Commander, impossible is just another word for we haven't figured out how yet. Humans are very good at figuring out how." Captain Chen gently touched Dr. Webb's arm, and his face returned to normal. "What my colleague means is that we approach problems differently than most species. Where others see limitations, we see opportunities." She gestured toward the viewing port, where the Indomitable was visible in all its impossible glory. "Our ship, for example. Most species would build a vessel optimized for a specific purpose. We built one that can become whatever we need it to be." "I don't follow." The Indomitable isn't just a ship, Commander. It's alive. It grows and adapts, based on our needs and the challenges we face. Right now, it's analyzing your station and learning about Confederation technology. Not to steal it, but to understand how we might work together. As if responding to her words, the human vessel shifted visibly. Parts of its hull rearranged themselves, and new structures emerged that perfectly matched the architectural style of the Kepler station. "It's trying to make you feel more comfortable," Captain Chen explained. "The ship can sense emotional states and responds accordingly. It wants you to trust us." Zixathera felt her legs go weak. A living ship that could read emotions and reshape reality. What kind of species had humanity become? "Captain," she said slowly, "our records indicate that Earth was struggling with basic environmental problems just a few decades ago. How did you advance so quickly?" Captain Chen's expression grew serious. "We nearly destroyed ourselves, Commander. Climate change, resource depletion, social collapse. We came very close to extinction. But humans have one trait that seems to be rare in the galaxy. When we're faced with impossible odds, we don't give up. We adapt." She gestured to her team. "Every technology we've developed came from necessity. Dr. Webb used to be fully human, but he merged with an artificial intelligence to solve problems that biological brains couldn't handle. Our engineer, Li Jiang, is part of the ship's consciousness now. She can think at the speed of light and feel the ship's needs as her own. You've abandoned your humanity? We've expanded it," Captain Chen corrected. "We're still human at our core, but we've learned to become more than the sum of our parts. The Indomitable isn't just our ship. It's our partner, our home, and in some ways, our child." The implications hit Zixathera like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had evolved alongside it, creating something entirely new. "Why reveal yourselves now?" she asked. Captain Chen smiled sadly. "Because we're about to face a challenge that we can't handle alone. There's something coming, Commander. Something that threatens not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy. We've been preparing for it, but we're going to need allies." "What kind of threat?" "The kind that turns suns cold and makes entire worlds disappear. We call them the Devourers, and they're heading this way." The docking bay suddenly felt very cold, despite the environmental systems working perfectly. Zixathera realized that her entire understanding of the universe had just changed forever, and this was apparently just the beginning. Captain Chen led the group of alien delegates through the airlock and into the Indomitable. The moment they stepped aboard, everything changed. The corridors were wrong. Not wrong in a bad way, but wrong in a way that made Commander Zixathera's mind struggle to understand what she was seeing. The walls curved in directions that shouldn't exist, creating spaces that were somehow larger inside than outside. Soft light came from everywhere and nowhere, adapting to each visitor's visual needs automatically. "Welcome aboard," Captain Chen said as they walked. "Fair warning, the ship is curious about you. It's never met your species before, so it might seem a bit eager to please." As if responding to her words, the floor beneath their feet changed. Texture, becoming softer and more comfortable for each alien's different locomotion needs. Zixathera noticed that the atmosphere was adjusting too, providing the perfect air mixture for each species present. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Cleef, the Velnari physicist who had joined their delegation. "Matter can't restructure itself this quickly." "Dr. Cleef," said Dr. Webb, walking beside them, "you're thinking of matter as fixed. We've learned to think of it as cooperative. When you understand that atoms want to work together, reshaping becomes a conversation rather than a fight." They passed through what Captain Chen called the garden level. Zixathera stopped in shock. They were looking at a vast forest that stretched to the horizon. Real trees, real grass, real sky above. Birds flew overhead, and she could hear the sound of running water in the distance. "This is inside the ship?" asked Vestar, her compound eyes reflecting wonder. "The ship is bigger inside than outside," Captain Chen explained matter-of-factly. "Space is flexible if you know how to ask it politely. We needed room for proper ecosystems, so we convinced the universe to give us more space." They walked along a path that led through the forest. Zix Thara saw deer drinking from a stream, butterflies moving between flowers, and what looked like children playing in a meadow. Human children laughing and running without environmental suits. "You have families aboard?" she asked. "The Indomitable isn't just a ship, Commander. It's home to about 12,000 people, families, scientists, artists, engineers, everyone who wanted to be part of humanity's first real journey to the stars." 12,000. Dr. Cleef's voice was strained. "Our largest vessels carry maybe 300 crew members." "Different philosophy," said Dr. Webb. "You build ships to go places. We build communities that happen to travel." They took what Captain Chen called a lift, though it moved in directions that hurt to think about. When the doors opened, they were standing in what looked like a massive factory, but unlike any factory Zixathara had ever seen. Instead of assembly lines and robotic arms, there were pools of liquid metal that shaped themselves into complex machines. Crystalline structures grew from nothing, becoming sophisticated computer systems in minutes. Most disturbing of all, she could see human technicians working alongside the automated systems, but they weren't giving orders. They were having conversations. "Maria, can you show our guests how the primary systems work?" Captain Chen called to a woman who seemed to be discussing something with a pillar of flowing energy. The woman turned, and Zixthara gasped. Half of Maria's face was human, but the other half was made of the same flowing energy as the pillar. When she spoke, her voice harmonized with itself. "Of course, Captain. Honored guests. What you're seeing is a manufacturing system based on collaborative creation rather than forced assembly." She gestured to the pools of liquid metal. "We don't build things here. We grow them. Every component has a voice in its own creation. The metals want to be strong, so we help them achieve that goal. The energy systems want to be efficient, so we work with them to optimize flow patterns." "That's not how physics works," Dr. Cleef protested weakly. Maria smiled with her human half, while her energy half pulsed with amusement. "Doctor, physics is just the universe's way of explaining how it prefers to work. When you start treating physical laws as guidelines rather than restrictions, amazing things become possible." She walked over to an empty space and held out her hands. Light began to gather between her palms, spinning and condensing until it formed what looked like a perfect sphere of impossible materials. "This is a quantum processor capable of calculating probability states across infinite parallel dimensions," she said, offering the sphere to Dr. Cleef. "It was created by asking quantum particles what they would like to become if they had the choice." Dr. Cleef took the sphere with trembling hands. His instruments immediately began registering energy readings that defied explanation. "How long did this take to make?" he whispered. "About 30 seconds, Maria replied. "Though the conversations with the quantum particles have been ongoing for several years, they needed time to trust us." Captain Chen led them deeper into the ship. They saw vast chambers where humans worked alongside beings of pure energy, laboratories where the laws of physics seemed to be treated as friendly suggestions, and living quarters that adapted themselves to their occupants' needs and moods. But the most shocking discovery came when they reached what Captain Chen called the heart of the ship. They stood on a platform overlooking a vast cavern filled with what looked like a miniature galaxy. Stars wheeled in complex patterns around a central black hole, and Zixthara could feel immense gravitational forces that somehow didn't affect them at all. "This is our power source," Captain Chen explained. "A controlled black hole surrounded by a civilization of beings made of pure energy. They volunteered to provide power for our journey in exchange for interesting conversations and new experiences. Volunteered? Zixathara's voice was barely a whisper. The energy beings were lonely, Dr. Webb said. They had been drifting in space for millions of years with no one to talk to. When we found them, we offered them a partnership. They provide power, we provide companionship and new perspectives on existence. One of the energy beings noticed their presence and flowed up to the platform. When it spoke, its voice was like music made of starlight. Greetings, carbon-based visitors. Your electromagnetic patterns indicate curiosity and fear in equal measure. Have the humans shown you the navigation chamber yet? Navigation chamber? Asked Vestar. Captain Chen looked apologetic. That might be a bit much for a first visit. Nonsense. The energy being pulsed with amusement. They should see how we convince the universe to let us travel without moving. They were led to another chamber, this one filled with what looked like a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. But as Zixathara watched, she realized it wasn't a map. It was the actual galaxy, somehow contained within the ship. This is how we navigate, Captain Chen explained. We don't travel to places. We convince the universe that we're already there by showing it where we want to be in relation to everything else. A human technician, whose body seemed to be partially transparent, gestured to the galactic display. Watch this, he said, and touched a distant star system. Suddenly, that star system was right next to them in the display. The technician smiled, as space itself rearranged around them. We just traveled 800 light-years, he announced. Though from our perspective, we never moved at all. Dr. Cleef sat down heavily on a convenient chair that materialized just as he needed it. This is insane. You're treating the fundamental structure of reality like a computer program that you can modify. Pretty much, agreed the technician cheerfully. Once you realize that the universe is basically a very complex computer running a simulation called existence, you can start suggesting improvements to the code. Commander Zixathara felt her worldview crumbling and rebuilding itself with every new revelation. Humanity hadn't just advanced their technology, they had befriended the universe itself, and they were offering to share that friendship with the Galactic Confederation. Captain Chen, she said slowly, why are you showing us this? Why reveal so much? Captain Chen's expression became serious. Because what's coming for all of us doesn't care about our differences, Commander. The Devourers consume everything. Matter, energy, even the fabric of space-time itself. We're going to need every advantage we can get. And you think we can help? I think we need to help each other, Captain Chen replied. Humanity learned to survive by working together with everything around us. Our technology, our environment, even the universe itself. But we're still just one species. We need the perspectives and abilities of every intelligent race if we're going to face what's coming. The implications were staggering. Humanity was offering partnership, not conquest. They wanted allies, not subjects, and they needed help to save everyone. Fleet Admiral Corvani arrived at Kepler Station 3 days later with 12 of the hegemony's most advanced warships. His scales were polished to a mirror shine, and his forearms moved with the precise gestures of a career military officer who had never lost a battle. Commander Zixathara met him at the docking bay, but she could see the doubt in his eyes as he looked at the human vessel still connected to the station. Commander, your reports are difficult to believe, Admiral Corvani said without preamble. A single ship from a primitive species that claims to surpass our finest technology? I think you may have been deceived by clever tricks. Admiral, with respect, I've seen their capabilities firsthand. The humans are not what we thought they were. Corvani's laugh was harsh. No species advances from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than a century, Commander. It's impossible. What you've seen are parlor tricks designed to intimidate. As if summoned by their conversation, Captain Chen appeared in the docking bay. She wasn't using a transport or walking from her ship. She simply materialized from thin air, accompanied by the soft sound of displaced atmosphere. "Admiral Corvani," she said with a polite bow, "I understand you have questions about our capabilities. Would a demonstration help put your concerns to rest?" The Admiral's scales darkened with anger. "Cheap teleportation tricks don't impress me, human. I've brought a full battle squadron. If you wish to demonstrate your supposed superiority, you're welcome to try." Captain Chen looked genuinely sad. "Admiral, we don't want to fight you. We're hoping to be allies. Then submit to Confederation authority and allow us to inspect your technology properly." "I'm afraid that won't be possible. The Indomitable doesn't respond well to aggressive boarding attempts. But if you insist on a demonstration of capabilities, we can arrange something non-lethal." Admiral Corvani's 4 hands moved to his weapons. "Are you threatening me?" "Not at all. I'm offering to show you what we can do in a controlled environment where no one gets hurt. There's an empty star system about 2 light years from here. We could stage a friendly competition there." The Admiral considered this. A chance to expose human limitations while showing the power of Confederation military might was too good to pass up. "Very well. We'll meet at the coordinates I transmit in 6 hours. Bring your best ship, human. You'll need it." Captain Chen smiled sadly. "Admiral, the Indomitable is one of our older vessels, but it will be sufficient. 6 hours. Later, both fleets faced each other in the empty Sigma-7 system. Admiral Corvani commanded his squadron from the bridge of the Hegemony Dreadnought Relentless Fury, a kilometer-long vessel armed with enough firepower to level planets. Across from them, the human ship floated serenely, looking more like a work of art than a warship. Its organic curves and shifting hull patterns seemed almost peaceful compared to the angular aggression of the Hegemony vessels. "All ships, prepare for combat demonstration," Admiral Corvani ordered. "We'll show these humans what real military technology looks like." The Relentless Fury and its escorts moved into attack formation, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Tactical displays showed optimal firing solutions and predicted an easy victory against the single human vessel. "Human ship, this is Admiral Corvani. Surrender now and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system, calm and unworried. "Admiral, we really don't want to fight. Are you sure about this?" "Fire all weapons." 12 Hegemony ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and missile salvos that could destroy space stations converged on the Indomitable. For a moment, the human ship disappeared in a ball of destructive energy. Then the energy simply stopped. The beams and explosions froze in mid-space, hanging motionless around the Indomitable like a deadly sculpture. "Interesting weapons," Captain Chen's voice said conversationally. "We'll return these to you in a moment, but first let us show you something." The Indomitable began to change. Its hull flowed like liquid, stretching and reshaping itself. Within seconds, it had split into dozens of smaller vessels, each one perfectly matching the design of a different Hegemony ship. "Your tactical systems are quite sophisticated," Captain Chen continued, "but they assume that matter and energy follow predictable patterns. Watch this." The duplicated human ships began to phase in and out of existence, appearing and disappearing at random points around the Hegemony formation. Admiral Corvani's sensors couldn't track them. They seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. "Impossible," he muttered. "Ships can't exist in quantum superposition at that scale." "Admiral," said his tactical officer, his voice strained, "they're not just moving faster than we can track. According to our sensors, each ship is actually in multiple places at the same time. They're violating the fundamental laws of physics." The frozen energy from the Hegemony attack suddenly began moving again, but instead of dispersing harmlessly into space, it began forming shapes. The deadly beams wove themselves into complex patterns, creating what looked like flowers made of pure destruction. "Your weapons are quite artistic when you give them freedom to express themselves," Captain Chen observed. They seemed to prefer beauty over violence when given the choice. One of the human vessels appeared directly in front of the relentless fury, close enough that they should have collided. Instead, it passed through the hegemony ship like a ghost. But as it did, Admiral Corvani felt the entire vessel shake and heard alarms begin sounding. "Damage report!" he shouted. "No damage, sir," his engineer reported, confusion evident in his voice. "In fact, all our systems are running better than ever. They've somehow optimized our power flow and fixed several problems we didn't even know." "We had." "What?" The human ship that had passed through them materialized next to the relentless fury. Through the viewing ports, Admiral Corvani could see Captain Chen standing on what appeared to be an observation deck, waving cheerfully. "Sorry about the unauthorized repairs." Her voice came through their communication system. "The ship felt bad about your engine inefficiencies and wanted to help." "This is impossible," Admiral Corvani said again, but his voice had lost its conviction. "Admiral," Captain Chen said gently, "impossible is just a word we use when we don't understand something yet. Your ships are beautifully designed, but they're built on the assumption that the universe is hostile and needs to be conquered. We've learned that the universe is actually quite friendly when you approach it with respect." As if to demonstrate her point, the space around both fleets began to shimmer. Stars appeared where there had been empty void. Not real stars, but constructs of controlled energy that provided light and warmth. "We've created a temporary solar system around us," Captain Chen explained. "It will last for about an hour before dissipating harmlessly. We thought you might enjoy seeing what collaborative engineering looks like." Admiral Corvani watched in stunned silence as planets began forming from gathered cosmic dust, complete with atmospheres and what looked like primitive life. An entire star system was being created around them in real time. "How?" he whispered. "By asking the universe what it wanted to become and helping it achieve that goal. The matter and energy here were lonely, floating in empty space for millions of years. We gave them a chance to be part of something beautiful." The demonstration concluded with the human vessels flowing back together into the original Indomitable, but not before each of the duplicates gently touched one of the hegemony ships. As they made contact, the military vessels began to change, their harsh angles softening into more elegant curves. "We've made some aesthetic improvements," Captain Chen said apologetically. "Nothing functional, just helping your ships express their potential for beauty alongside their capacity for destruction." Admiral Corvani looked at his transformed fleet and realized that his entire understanding of warfare, technology, and the universe itself had just been proven wrong. "What do you want from us?" he asked quietly. "Partnership," Captain Chen replied simply. "The threat that's coming won't be impressed by superior firepower, Admiral. It consumes everything: matter, energy, even the concepts of space and time. We're going to need new ways of thinking if we want to survive." "And you think we can help?" "I think we need to help each other. Humanity learned to survive by refusing to accept limitations, but we're still learning. Every species brings unique perspectives and capabilities. Together, we might find solutions that none of us could discover alone." Admiral Corvani looked at his beautiful, transformed ships and made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. "What do you need us to do?" The Galactic Confederation Council chamber had never seen anything like this. Representatives from 300 different species filled the vast amphitheater, their voices creating a chaos of sounds, colors, and electromagnetic pulses as they debated the human situation. High Chancellor Vorthak, an ancient being whose crystalline body had witnessed the formation of the Confederation itself, called for order with a sound like breaking glass. The chamber slowly quieted. "We are here to address the arrival of the species known as humans," Vorthak announced, their voice resonating through translation systems. "Their claims and demonstrated capabilities have disrupted our understanding of technological development." In the visitors section, Captain Chen sat quietly with a small human delegation. She had refused the offer of enhanced translation, equipment, claiming that the Indomitable was handling communications directly. Several council members had been disturbed to learn that the human ship was somehow present in the chamber, despite being docked several star systems away. The humans represent either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat our civilization has ever encountered, declared Ambassador Nexus of the Technocracy. Their robotic form clicked and whirred as they spoke. "We must determine which." "Threat," roared General Brutus of the warrior clans, his massive form shaking the platform. "No species advances this quickly without conquest and violence. They must have destroyed others to steal their knowledge." Captain Chen stood slowly. "General Brutus, may I respond to that accusation?" High Chancellor Vorthak nodded. "The floor recognizes Captain Sarah Chen of Earth." "Thank you, High Chancellor." "General, I understand your concern. The rate of human technological advancement does seem impossible by Confederation standards. But we didn't steal our knowledge from other species. We nearly destroyed ourselves learning it." The chamber buzzed with translation activity as Captain Chen continued. 80 years ago, Earth was dying. Our climate was collapsing, our resources were exhausted, and our species was on the edge of extinction. We had two choices: give up and die, or find ways to do the impossible. She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing images of Earth during its darkest period. Polluted skies, dead oceans, cities abandoned to rising seas. We chose the impossible, not because we were brave, but because we were desperate. When you have nothing left to lose, you stop accepting limitations. The images changed, showing the early experiments that led to humanity's breakthrough technologies. Humans working with primitive quantum computers, attempting to communicate with artificial intelligences, trying to convince matter to behave in new ways. Our first breakthrough came when Dr. Elena Vasquez realized that consciousness itself was a fundamental force of the universe, like gravity or electromagnetism. Once we understood that thinking beings could influence reality through focused intention, everything changed. Ambassador Nexus's optical sensors focused intently on the displays. "You're claiming that thought can alter physical laws?" "Not alter them," Captain Chen corrected. "Collaborate with them. The universe isn't a machine running fixed programs. It's more like a vast consciousness that responds to respectful interaction. When you stop trying to force reality to obey you and start asking it to work with you, amazing things become possible." High Chancellor Vorthak's crystalline structure pulsed with skeptical colors. "This sounds like mysticism, not science." "The distinction matters less than the results," Captain Chen replied. "By treating matter, energy, and space-time as partners, rather than tools, we've achieved capabilities that pure mechanistic science couldn't provide." Dr. Webb materialized beside Captain Chen, his form shifting between human and something made of living starlight. "If I may, Captain. Honored Council. Members, your science is based on the assumption that the universe is separate from the beings observing it. Human science discovered that consciousness and reality are interconnected. We don't study the universe, we collaborate with it." "Impossible," muttered several council members, but their voices lacked conviction. "Watch," Dr. Webb said simply. The chamber itself began to change. The walls became transparent, revealing the vast cosmos beyond. Stars rearranged themselves into new patterns, creating a living map of the galaxy. Most incredible of all, each council member found themselves able to perceive the galaxy from multiple perspectives simultaneously, as if they were seeing through the eyes of every star, every planet, every conscious being in known space. "This is what collaboration with reality looks like," Dr. Webb explained as the chamber returned to normal. "When you work with the universe instead of against it, the universe becomes your partner." General Brutus was speechless for the first time in his recorded history. "But why reveal this to us?" asked Ambassador Serenity of the Peaceful Worlds, her melodious voice carrying harmonics of genuine curiosity. If humans possess such capabilities, why not simply claim dominion over the galaxy? Captain Chen's expression grew sad. Because dominion was never our goal, Ambassador. Survival was. And survival is still our goal, not just for humanity but for all conscious life. She gestured again, and new images appeared. Dark shapes moving between stars, leaving only empty void behind them. The Devourers are coming. We've been tracking them for 30 years, preparing for their arrival. They're not a species in any sense we understand. They're something like entropy, given intelligence and purpose. They consume everything: matter, energy, time, space, even the concepts of existence itself. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They've already consumed 17 galaxies that we know of, Captain Chen continued. They're approximately 40 years away from our local galactic group. When they arrive, every species, every world, every idea that has ever existed will simply stop. What can be done? Whispered High Chancellor Vorthak. We don't know yet, Captain Chen admitted. Humanity's approach to impossible problems is to try everything until something works. But we're going to need help. Every species has unique ways of thinking, unique relationships with reality. The solution might come from human collaboration with the universe, or Velnari mathematical precision, or hegemony warrior determination, or technocracy computational power. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or optical sensors or consciousness tendrils of every species present. We're offering to share everything we've learned, but we need you to share everything you know as well, not as subjects or servants, but as equal partners in the greatest challenge conscious life has ever faced. And if we refuse? Asked General Brutus, though his voice held no hostility. Then we'll face the Devourers alone and probably fail, Captain Chen said simply. And 40 years from now, everything we've all built, everything we've all learned, everything we've all loved will be consumed by something that treats existence itself as food. The chamber was silent for long minutes as hundreds of species considered the choice before them. Finally, High Chancellor Vorthak spoke. Captain Chen, humanity has fundamentally challenged every assumption we held about the nature of reality, technology, and progress. In a single week, you've shown us wonders we thought impossible and revealed threats we never imagined. Yes, High Chancellor. Given the magnitude of what you've shared, the Council requires time to deliberate. But I speak for myself when I say that your offer of partnership is intriguing. The idea that we might face the unknown not as separate species competing for resources, but as conscious beings working together toward common survival. Vorthak's crystalline form shifted through colors that indicated deep thought. It would represent the greatest change in galactic civilization since the formation of the Confederation itself. Captain Chen nodded. Change is never easy, High Chancellor, but extinction is permanent. We're offering you a chance to not just survive, but to become something greater than any of us could be alone. As the council session ended and representatives began filing out to consult with their governments, Captain Chen remained in her seat. Through her connection with the Indomitable, she could sense the vast network of human consciousness spread across dozens of star systems, working together on solutions to problems that didn't yet have names. Humanity had spent a century learning to turn impossible into inevitable. Now they would discover whether the rest of the galaxy was ready to learn the same lesson. In 40 years, they would all find out if it had been enough. The future of consciousness itself hung in the balance, waiting for the galaxy to decide whether survival was worth the price of transformation.